Hello everyone, it is Ariel from the Anime Legion, and I am recording a separate video that will be the first on my separate channel. So I'm excited. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. But today I will be talking about my favorite franchise of all time, the Gundam franchise. In this series, I will give a little background of the entire franchise as well as a quick synopsis of each series, OVA, movie, that intertwines with the original timeline, also known as the Universal Century. Mobile Suit Gundam was a part of a 3-part real robot project created by the infamous Yoshiyuki Tomino and Sunrise Studios. The Gundam series began on April 7th, 1979, and initially started off rocky due to the war events that would seem a little too mature for the targeted audience. Due to the low popularity, the initial 52-episode series was canceled prematurely. But due to the popularity of the Gundam models, now known as Gunpla, Mobile Suit Gundam was able to return on the air, but at the cost of the series being condensed to the 43 episodes we have today. As per the introduction, Mobile Suit Gundam was the first of many shows to appear. The first series takes place in both space and Earth. The original series begins in 0079 in the Universal Century, and the One-Year War has wiped out nearly half of the human population. In the initial series, we have two sides, the Earth Federation and the Principality of Zeon. The original series protagonist, Amuro Ray, is a 15-year-old boy who stumbles upon the Gundam and is the only one who can really pilot the Earth Federation's new unit. Amuro and other young characters must face many trials and tribulations in order to survive. The series antagonist is 20-year-old Char Aznable. Char Aznable is a mysterious character who has built a name for himself in the prior conflicts before the initial start of the series. Char pilots numerous mobile suits, but his signature custom is typically a red mobile suit that flies typically faster than the traditional models. Gundam sets a tone completely different from the rest due to there is no good or evil, as we're able to witness both from the respective factions. Due to the commercial success of Gundam action figures, in 1980, Gundam was able to condense the 43-episode series into a movie trilogy that removed some of the lesser needed episodes without removing any vital information. Unfortunately, due to the age of the original series, the graphics are not the best, and if you would like to start the franchise, I would suggest watching the movies. Next, we will discuss arguably one of the best works in the Universal Century, the direct sequel to Mobile Suit Gundam, Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam. Zeta ran from March 2nd, 1985 to February of 1986 and took place 4 years after Mobile Suit Stardust Memory. Please keep in mind that this series will be split in various parts, and Stardust Memory is an OVA and will be discussed in another video. Due to the events of Stardust Memory, a new faction was created within the Earth Federation called the Tetons. Please keep in mind that due to translation that it's supposed to be pronounced Tetons, but due to the dub that I watched, I say Titans, and just for my sake, I will be saying Titans for now on, but it is Tetons. Okay. So the Titans were created to eliminate the remnants of Zeon, but as time went on, the task force would ruthlessly kill civilians if they questioned their actions. We also have the Anti-Earth Union Group, also known as the AEUG, a rebel group formed to defeat the Titans. The year is 0087. Camille Bidan is a 17-year-old boy who winds up being involved in the Grips conflict and manages to steal the Gundam Mark II from the Titans. Unfortunately, due to this particular conflict, we get to experience a lot of emotions and conflicts within the characters of the series. In Zeta, we can clearly understand that there is no good or bad side. It is refreshing to see that in the initial series, the Earth Federation was seen as a good faction, but now in Zeta Gundam, we have widespread corruption seen through the Titans' actions. In Zeta, we also get to see some familiar faces as well as numerous mobile suits and Gundam variations. We also get to see the first transformable units and the main character receiving a new Gundam halfway throughout the series. What I love about Zeta is that we get to see a lot of major antagonists and further explanations of new types. Due to Tomino suffering from depression, we as the audience get to see how dark and twisted Zeta can get, while also emphasizing the casualties of war. In the end of this conflict, both the AEUG and Earth Federation have been severely crippled, resulting in a new force to present itself full force, Axis Zeon. After the unexpected turn of events, From Zeta Gundam, we are now in the third series of the timeline. Double Zeta is the direct sequel, and I mean this quite literally, as the series began March of 1986 to January 31st of 1987. Double Zeta follows the end of the Grips War, and the AEUG ship the Argama has recently defeated the Jupiter fleet, and Camille is suffering from the psychological traumas from the final battle. The AEUG has taken refuge in Side 1. It is the year 0088 of the Universal Century. Our protagonist for Double Zeta is the youngest one yet, Judah Ashta, a 14-year-old student and junk collector who's working hard to support his younger sister Lena while their parents are away on a work trip. After running into a former foe from Zeta Gundam, Judah and his group of friends ultimately join the Argama after numerous attempts of stealing the Zeta Gundam. Like his predecessor series, Judah also gets an upgraded transformable Gundam known as the MS-7 Double Zeta Gundam. Things take a turn when Neo Zeon, previously Axis Zeon in Zeta Gundam, kidnaps his younger sister and eventually meets our main protagonist, Haman Khan, the leader of Neo Zeon. In my opinion, depending on how serious you are into watching the Gundam franchise, you don't necessarily need to watch Double Zeta in order to understand what happens in the next part of our timeline here. So it's completely up to you, and to let you know that this is one of the few Gundams that does not have dub. So if you're a dub watcher, I'm very sorry. It only comes in sub. But we also get to see a few familiar faces in both the original Gundam series as well as Zeta. In the first opening of the series, we're also teased of a possible reunion between our beloved rivals Amuro and Char. Initially, both were supposed to have their end-all be-all battle, but Tomino was given the green light in the middle of Double Zeta to allow the two to fight in what might be their last battle, Mobile Suit Gundam Char's Counterattack. As mentioned from our tiny review of Double Zeta Gundam, after the defeat of Neo Zeon, Char Aznavour, also known as Caswell Rendaikum, has made a return since the events of Zeta Gundam. Char has now become the leader of Neo Zeon and has grown tired of people living and polluting the Earth. He has decided to force the rest of humanity into space by dropping the giant space fortress Axis on Earth to create a nuclear winter. Amuro is now a well-respected pilot and is given the latest Gundam, the RX-93V Gundam. Might I add, it is one of my favorite Gundam designs in all of the Gundam variations. Just take a look at this. This Gundam is chef's kiss. It's perfection. Amuro and the Lundo Bell's goal is to prevent Char Aznavour and his team from polluting the Earth, as well as preventing Axis from free-falling into Earth's gravity. Char's counterattack may end the feud between old rivals, but we have just begun for the ongoing conflict within the Universal Century. Stay tuned for the next part of the series, where we will wrap up the initial timeline that will not include the OVA backstories.